Learn more, do more, live more.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Jarett Lopez Show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with my very good friends, InHouse Creations. Boys, introduce yourself and tell the people what you do.
My name's Graham Hood. I'm one of the owners of InHouse. I run all the operation side of things. Yeah.
My name's Marcus Quon. I'm a creative director at InHouse. I manage most of our creative projects, starting with product rollouts and developing campaigns. I also run our social media and do our website and take care of the visual representation of what we do and who we are.
My name is Matt. I'm the COO of InHouse, and I make dope shit.
So, guys, how did you meet and how did InHouse come to be?
I met Graham when we were in design school at Blanche McDonald, and kind of right away we had a pretty good connection there, and we got along pretty well and really helped each other through our design school. And then afterwards...
our design school experience.
Our design school experience, yeah. It was an experience. So, yeah, and then... we just kind of kept in touch, and then actually Matt was going to school 2 years later, and Graham was teaching there, and we all kind of, I don't really know how it all happened, but me and Graham were working out of the living room at his place. We just set up shop there, one machine, one table, and then Matt ended up moving in there at the end of his schooling, so there was all three of us in there, working out of the living room, and we just decided we needed to make some moves.
Yeah, there wasn't enough room for 3 people to sew on one machine and one table, so it was time to for a little bit of an upgrade. We upgraded a lot more than we thought we were probably going to the space that we're in now, but yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So why don't you tell the people a little bit about the space, like where you're at and what you do in there on the day-to-day?
So the space is located in North Vancouver. It's just a block up from the water on First and Lonsdale. We do a bunch of different stuff as far as creative projects go. Mainly we do merch stuff for companies. We're working with artists to develop things that necessarily they don't have the means to do or the space to do. We house artists. We work on our own clothing company as well, Parole. And yeah, and we do a bunch. It's just kind of a mishmash of creative things.
Yeah. Every day is a little different. Some days you might be screen printing. Some days we might be doing upholstery. Some days we might be building boxes for a festival. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. And the last time I stopped by the studio, you guys kind of told me about how you guys been pivoting because of COVID. Why don't you share with the people what you were focusing on prior, and then what you've been doing during, and then how are things looking now?
I think it was a really interesting kind of time for everyone, but it really kind of shifted our approach at things and how we're operating, and we really kind of had to think about how we're being efficient with our time, and it was just really challenging, so we had to just cut out the stuff that isn't necessary, is a waste of time pretty much. But yeah, we just really had to shift our kind of mindset to making sure that we're always doing something to progress forward, just because you never know what kind of crazy shit's going to happen in this world.
Yeah, it happened at an interesting time because we finally got to the point where our business was actually, after a year, we kind of figured out what worked, and we were starting to actually make money, and then all of a sudden this happens, and it's like we're still kind of on that trajectory, but it's just changed on how we're going about doing those things. So it's cool to see that once you put things into place for your business to actually run it and like bounce back against, it's cool to see that there's actually something there, whether it's where you can actually pivot, where it's some people don't actually take the time to think about the little things, that when you do have to pivot, it's not just a shit show and more of a panic situation.
Right. And so, what specifically have you guys been working on, though?
We've been doing a lot of just like cool custom projects. We took the time because a lot of our clients kind of, everyone's kind of figuring out their own shit right now. So when things slowed down a little bit, we just took the time to work on the projects that we always really wanted to. Just didn't really have the time for or couldn't really prioritize it. So specifically, we just did a leather capsule for our clothing line. Just probably like 4, 5, 6 new pieces for that. Just doing kind of monthly, how would you call it? They're like groups of like 4 or 5 things at a time that kind of make sense, that kind of play off each other, that we can do all at the same time. And then we'll flip that, put it out there, and then we'll kind of move on to the next.
Yeah.
So just, a lot of cool little projects.
Dope. And so tell us a little bit about Parole. What's the brand about? What kind of things you guys making? And I know you guys were originally going to do a pop-up in the springtime. Obviously, that's been pushed back. How has the brand and the clothing production for that shifted?
Well, everything got slowed down and the whole world kind of shut down.
Yeah.
So when everything slows down like that, our production just gets put on hold. So we had created a line that was going to be for that specific pop-up, where we were going to start trying to push into the wholesale space with the brand. But obviously things are shifting, and maybe it's a blessing that it happened when it did, and we're sort of now shifting all of our focus to, we want to be primarily an online store, where before we were sort of thinking, or we're kind of stuck between if we want to go wholesale or if we're going to sell everything online. So maybe it's a blessing, who knows? But it's we have a bunch of stuff ready. It's just now it's just how we're going to release it and for what.
Yeah, we had a really good turnout at our last pop-up in November. So we were really excited to do another one in April and continue that momentum. This one specifically, we really developed our signature collection a lot farther, where before we had a couple styles of shirts, hoodies, and then a lot of like one-of-one pieces that we did. But for this collection, we had ready a couple pairs of pants, a long sleeve crew neck, a few styles of jackets. So I think it was really going to showcase the development of our brand and how far we've grown in the past year. But yeah, like you said, it could be a blessing in disguise. It gives us a little bit more time to tweak a few things and perfect a few things and make sure that we're super, super happy with everything that we have. But yeah, we're always testing products. We're always sampling. We're always adjusting things as we go. So we're ready to go. We have to figure out what's the best approach to do it. Obviously, we're not able to do a pop-up at the moment just based on limitations with events and stuff. So that'll be another challenge for us to figure out how we want to drop products. And I think it'll be a challenge for a lot of other companies as well, just figuring out a different approach to product-based stuff.
Cool. Yeah, it's just been interesting to see how everyone's been pivoting and how different brands are adapting, not just to COVID, but also the protests happening and different ways that people are creating products that are so cause-based now these days. Like almost everything, all these new products that I'm seeing, there's the money's always going somewhere, and I think people are really gravitating to that. And it is a trend that I was seeing in marketing just with our generation and Gen Z, that people gravitate to brands that support something, with like Tree kind of being one of the first big brands to do that. But now, with everything going on in the world, I think every brand is going to have a cause.
Yeah, a cause or some type of bigger
Initiative,
message or something.
Yeah.
People are kind of weeding out the people who are just doing it to get famous or to just get rich. Like there's more to it than that. So I think causes and stuff like that will really resonate with a lot of people, and just spreading a bit greater message.
Yeah. It's always cool, like, as a company, if you take initiative as opposed to just giving money, because nobody ever sees the money, right?
True.
It's like, if you're going to give back, like for me and for us, like if we were going to do something like that, like I would make it so that there was an initiative set forward for us to actually go and help, not just to give, but to like actually help if that is a thing. But yeah, there's so much shit going on in the world right now. It's just,
Yeah, actually, the first time I really started to care about fashion was when I got a clothing brand, a streetwear brand, as a client. They're called 11% back in Ottawa. And their brand and their message and their cause is really simple. They're just going to give 10% of their profits to clothing the homeless in Ottawa in the wintertime because they literally die because it's freezing.
Yeah.
And I was volunteering at a soup kitchen at the time, the same soup kitchen that I had gone to years prior when I was broke, and help organize with them, having their whole team come in and just do like a to serve at the soup kitchen basically for a day. And I took a video and everything, and they did it. Basically, they made it like an annual thing. So that's like a perfect example of that.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And it's really simple, you know.
Yeah.
Just donate your time, and obviously they donate 11%. But yeah. Okay, so from the beginning, one of the things that was really impressive to me when I came into the studio is that you guys always have bodies in there. You guys have Aiden and Hugo and everyone else involved. How have you built such a big team? How is it managed? Who does what? And how are you building the type of culture where people want to come in and be involved with what you're doing?
Well, I'll just start off. The way we build the culture is it just kind of builds itself. Like we don't set out to necessarily find anyone. It's kind of the opposite. Like people come to us and it's just like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then that's fine. But and through that, you find people that are coming. Everyone is in a different position, right? So when you find people that align with what you're trying to do, and there's ways that you can help. I think that's kind of how that our studio has come to be. It's like we all have a greater goal, or we all help each other in terms. It's kind of like a bounce back with everything that we do for each other. So yeah, like we've never been like, we want you to work in the studio. It's just like it's kind of worked out the way. It's just kind of worked out organically, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the three of us when we started, we built out the team internally first, where all of our past, we've had our own clothing line, and we understand how much effort and time it takes to do something like that by yourself. So when all three of us came together and decided to work together as a team, it really just opened our eyes as far as being able to put 100% of your effort into a portion of a business. And I know for myself personally, I found that just way more efficient with my time and just my health and everything. It just makes more sense to know that there's people on your team that have your back and that can do things that you aren't necessarily the best at. So that allows us to focus on our strong suits while we know that the other guys have their portion and their section kind of figured out. And then once we had that together with the three of us, that's when we can, I guess you could say we've somewhat assembled a team where we know, we need someone to do photography, videography. We have graphic designers. We have people who can print with us. So that's kind of where we started piecing people together. But at the same time, like you said, it just kind of happened organically. And then now that we do have our team established, that's kind of what draws other people in. They kind of see what we're doing, and we'll reach out to people every now and then, and people will reach out to us just to kind of start the conversation. But we always have people coming through the studio just to see what we're doing, just to gain the awareness, and also just to meet people and grow our network. Because I think at the end of the day, the whole business model is based off of community and connecting with all types of creatives from all different mediums. So it just kind of makes sense that happens organically as well.
Dope, yeah, and it's definitely something that I'm trying to build even here at our studio. Just something that we talked about a while ago. Is just make dope shit, and like other people are gonna want to do it with you.
Yeah.
And there's no shortage of talented creators in the city,
Not by any
and
means.
it's just a matter of creating a community and a platform for them to come together, because it's more so in the music industry, especially in hip hop, but there are cliques, and like people need a reason to come together, and just knowing that there's a place to do so is really just the first step.
Yeah. And for sure with music, ego is one of the biggest thing that gets in people's ways, and that's probably within the first conversation of when we were establishing this business. That was the first thing we addressed, where we recognize that the only thing that's going to get in our way is our ego. If we keep an open mind and keep working as a team, then the ego shit, it just gets in the way of relationships and the way that you think, and it turns people jaded. So, but with music, it's, I mean, if you're a superstar performing in front of thousands of people, it's kind of hard not to have an ego.
Yeah, you kind of have to have an ego, but
Yeah.
there's balance. But yeah, you're definitely right. It's a different world. Like somebody that paints and somebody that raps, different headspaces.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Another thing that, again, we've talked about this a lot. How important is it as a creative to understand business?
What's the most important part? Because if you're spending your time creating something all day, then you need some sort of kickback. Like understanding the value of your art is the most important part of your art.
You could be the greatest artist in the world, but if nobody ever sees it, or if you're selling it for pennies, undervaluing yourself or whatever, then you're never going to make it the way you should, right?
Yeah,
You got to understand that.
Yeah, we were having a talk the other day at the studio. It's just like, okay, if you have a piece of art and somebody wants to buy it from you, and they don't want to pay what you're charging for it. And then there's this battle with artists where it's like, I'd rather have somebody just have that in their house than for me to sit on it. But lots of times where people don't realize is if you spend all this time doing something and then you allow somebody to devalue your work because maybe it's the principle, it's not the price. It's like, it makes more sense if it's just
It devalues your work, it dilutes the market, it's everything.
Yeah.
Like it's,
so like with artists.
know your worth. Know your fucking worth, that's all.
Yeah, with artists, it's like if you're gonna put a number on something, you got to stand by it. And if that's the market that you're gonna, it's like what you're talking. If you create your own market in art. So if you devalue yourself from the start, it's pretty hard to win.
And why do you think so many artists struggle with that? Do you think it's like they can't detach themselves from the art, or like emotion gets into it? Like, why do you think so many artists don't understand the business side?
Like
Is it laziness? Like, what do you think it is?
It's a different reason for everyone, but the creative brain and the business brain shouldn't, like, if you're completely creative, you shouldn't have to think about business. There should be somebody with you that does it for you. Like, that's how the greatest creative people become the greatest creative people, because they don't have to worry about the other shit. But they're all this side. But if you have to do both, you just have to, you either got to figure it out for yourself or have somebody help you do it.
Right. Why should people care about fashion? Should they care about fashion? Is it important?
Loaded questions.
Yeah, it definitely depends on. The answer would depend on who you're asking. Because for us, obviously, it's important because I know personally, I use fashion and I use my outfit as a way to express myself. And if I'm feeling a certain way on a certain day, I might wear this outfit. But if I'm feeling, happy or sad, whatever it is, I use it to kind of display a lot of the times, at least when I was younger, my emotion, and it was just a way to express myself. So when we started making clothing, that was a way for kind of us to show how we're feeling. And it was, for me, it was like, I want people to feel the same way about clothing as I do. So when someone puts on one of my shirts or one of my jackets or something, I want them to be stoked. I want them to feel confident. I want them to think that they're going to take over the world. But I also understand that not everyone cares about fashion, and that's totally fine. Like, I don't give a fuck if you don't like clothing, and that's not what you're into, then that's fine. You're not the customer that we're trying to go after. I completely understand that and respect that, but it should be important to the people who think it's important, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that think the same way as me, where it is just a way to express yourself. It's a way to empower yourself and just differentiate yourself from other people.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't really start getting into fashion or caring about what I wore until I got that first client. And then it was after just looking up how much things cost, that I can just find shit online that I think is cool. And then, because I wasn't designing anything at the time, and still don't even really consider myself a designer because I can't sew, but I creative direct ideas. I just like the idea of curating an outfit for specific things. So like my first things, and like the very reason why I kind of started getting into designing is because I go to shows and I go to festivals, and everyone is always trying to flex at shows, especially festivals, because like there's good lighting, because it's during the day, and every girl wants their picture taken, and then all the attention is on the stage, and then as a photographer I'm like right next to it, so I was just so aware that there's so many eyeballs on me, I might as well wear something dope. 100%. And that kind of kicked off the whole my whole inspiration of just like caring about what I wear.
And especially today, like everyone wants something that nobody else has. There's this whole thing of exclusive products or exclusive drops. So because all three of us have a background in sewing, and we're all capable of making bespoke pieces, I think that's definitely a huge just advantage, and also attraction to people, that you can come to our event at one of our pop-ups and there might be 20 custom pieces there, and that's literally your only chance to ever get that. Some people, like, we'll make stuff, like especially when we're doing pop-ups, we'll be up the week before finishing pieces up, so sometimes we don't even get the chance to shoot anything, so we'll have stuff on display there, it'll sell, and we won't even have the chance to shoot it, so no one ever knows that it exists unless you bought it. So there's that whole thing about having shit that no one has, and just having custom shit that we can provide to our customers as well, that it does make them feel special in a way.
Such a stigma around what you wear too. It's like you wear a suit, it's like you probably work like a 9 to 5, and so it's that all plays into it as well. It's like, who are you? It's like, because like I got homies that wear suits that shouldn't be wearing a suit, or just like that's not who they are. So it's like it's crazy how you can like deflect and like kind of like hide behind what you're wearing, and like convince people a certain thing, because everyone just makes an assumption at first glance most of the time when you first meet somebody. So it's like you roll up wearing a suit, it's like what I think about you to what you wear this, you roll up, it's like if I never met you, like my initial thought about who you are is completely different. Yeah, and
that's that is something that I started doing too. At Daily Hive, when I was working there, they had a very relaxed dress code. And here at the studio, I don't enforce a dress code, but I wear a blazer every Monday because it just puts me in that like business, get shit done like mentality. And so that's a part of it, because it's, and kind of to Marcus's point, that it is about how you feel wearing the clothes. Even if no one else sees it. So it's like, it really does depend on what you're doing. So like, I'll wear a blazer for myself, whereas I'll wear like my festival jacket to show off.
Right.
So it really depends on the
time and place.
Exactly, for sure. All right, guys. So what advice would you give to up-and-coming designers, or people trying to get into the industry in 2020?
I always tell everyone the same thing. I just say go work for somebody. Like allow yourself to make your mistakes and learn your lessons under somebody else's watch and somebody else's dollar, because especially with stuff like this, it's like you come out of school, you think you want to have a clothing company, you have no idea what the fuck you're doing. Like, you go to school, you come out, you know how to sew a straight line. Like, people that go to fashion school, and then people that go to marketing fashion school, it doesn't matter. You can go to as much school as you want. Having your own clothing company it's got to be one of the hardest businesses to create, because it's forever changing. There's so many moving parts, and going back to what he said about just like why we built this team, it's like you can't do it yourself, and if you can do it yourself, you can do it with yourself to a certain point, and then you need a team, and then you have to build a team, so then you have a whole other set of problems.
Right.
Yeah, I also tell people just to start, because a lot of the conversations that we have with potential new clients and just friends even, everyone's always trying to figure out the perfect way to come into the market. They want to have everything calculated, everything completely dialed in, and they think they're just going to come in and it's going to be, smooth sailing. And that's what I thought when I started too, but you're going to have a rude awakening of, you think you're going to have the perfect start, and there's going to be shit going wrong all the time, constantly, and you're always going to have to be forced to fix your mistakes and just to readjust and everything. So once you're at that point where you think you are ready to start, even if you're not fully ready, just start, and then you're going to start making mistakes. You're going to learn from those mistakes. It sounds cliche, but you have to fuck up a bunch before you figure out what's right and what's wrong.
Yep. And just make sure you really love what you do, because like if you don't really love what you do, you're gonna find out really quick, because there's a lot of times where you're gonna be late nights and not really want to do it, but if it's in down deep, you can feel it, and you know that it's in you, then you'll figure it out and just do it. So just make sure you really want it, and you'll figure it out. Really make sure you love what you do, because you're going to have a lot of long nights, and you're going to have a lot of shitty days, and there's going to be projects that you don't want to do and things that don't go exactly as you planned. But at the end of the day, if you really love it and you're passionate about it, and it's something that you deep down really feel good about, then you'll just figure it out and you'll just do it, and you'll get through it, and it'll be okay. But just love what you do. So. But yeah.
And just remember why you're doing it and why you started it, because when you're having those days, then just think about why, and that usually gets you through it.
Definitely don't want to sew when you're having a day like that.
Yeah.
No, your lines aren't gonna be straight. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys spend a lot of your business and your time working on products for other brands. Why is it that entrepreneurs and businesses keep investing in branded products, and what do you think the value is in having branded promotional products?
Advertising. I really do. I think it's the easiest way to advertise something. Just if you have like your just t-shirts, for example, because that's something that we do. But if it's a walking billboard, like if I slap on any company that comes to us, say a coffee shop, whoever, they want a big thing, then all of a sudden they sell that to their customer, give it away, whatever. That's it's just walking advertisement. And so
I think that there's a lot of companies out there that are kind of starting to realize this, and it's part of them building their brand as well, whether their brand has nothing to do with a t-shirt or a hat or whatever, because everything is going towards the community-based businesses now. So I think that's it's shifting, where before it was mostly big companies that buy mostly liquor companies that buy a bunch of merch and just give it to everyone. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see the switch and to work with these smaller companies too now, because they care a lot more about the actual product and what they're giving to people, where sometimes when we work with bigger companies, it's just like throwaway shit. Right. So it's just, for us, we like to work with people that actually care about the stuff that we're making for them. So in that aspect, it's interesting. But yeah, merchandise in general, I think there's lots of value in merchandise for artists, for anybody that's trying to start something, sell something. You can create a wave through merch.
Yeah, and I also think, kind of back to the cause conversation we were having, especially if the business has nothing to do with like physical products or clothes. Like now there's a physical way for you to not just support the business, but then also, an avenue for them to donate proceeds to whatever cause they're trying to support.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that's built off loyalty of their customers. Like if you're a apparel company, then obviously you're gonna need merchandise. But a lot of the companies we work with as well are just you wouldn't necessarily, or they wouldn't necessarily think about doing merch right at the start, but then they have this business, it's good, it's successful, they have a good following, and then it just kind of clicks and it makes sense that like, yo, people are asking for shirts, people are asking for other ways to support, so that's where we can come in and just kind of, you know, help them out.
It helps create content as well. Like it makes things a lot easier for them to create content now with social media being such a strong force of advertising and whatnot. So if you have models in branded merch of your business, that's just a lot easier to take pictures of than some dude with a coffee cup or whatever.
Yeah, there's just a lot of new ways to add value to your company that are just like little side things that like.
All right, here's a fun question, kind of more for Marcus, but everyone can chime in. If I gave you guys 10 grand to market the next Sans Parole drop, what would you do with it and why?
Vegas.
We're gonna take a vacation.
Put it all on wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously some of that would have to go into materials. If we're going to make stuff, if we're going to produce stuff, whatever it is, there's obviously cost for that. But where we're at right now is we really want to focus on the back end of things as far as getting eyes on our website and traction to our pages and that kind of stuff, where we feel like that's a point, or we're at a point where that will really help us take the next step and really boost us to that next level. So a lot of it would probably go into research and development of our website development and optimizing our search engine and all that fun stuff. Yeah. But yeah, we'd probably if we had 10 grand, we'd probably rent a dope space and make a fuck ton of dope shit and
have a banger party.
Yeah, throw a shaker. That's what we're good at.
Yeah, throwing events, and that's also something that I mean, I obviously went to the pop-up that you guys did, and it was super cool. And you guys sold out of everything, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
There's like
pretty much.
45 units left.
Yeah. And I think I was there for like maybe 2 hours, but a lot of different people came through. And event marketing, obviously for brands is huge, but I think event marketing in general is something that a lot of companies overlook, just getting people together. And obviously it's a lot harder right now with COVID happening, but if you can find a way to attach your brand to a physical event, and because like there's just so many things happening in the world, like if you can get everyone's attention and get them physically there, then it's a great way to promote a brand.
Yeah.
Like pop-ups and
you can create
release
community
parties. Yeah, and especially if like everyone has a good time and then can relate a moment or a person to that event, then it creates that brand awareness and loyalty too.
Yeah. And from a sales perspective, it's at least for our clothing, like we focus a lot on the quality and the materials and that kind of stuff. It's really hard to convince someone online or even just through text, whatever it is. It's you can't feel material over the internet. So when we have these pop-ups, part of it is also because people can actually see the quality of our work. They can actually look at it up close. But then from the community aspect of things, like we don't want it to seem like we're just inviting you out just for you to give us your money. Like obviously there's a sales aspect of all the events that we do, but where we really try and make it enjoyable for people and take the pressure off them is just to come through, have a good time. You know, we'll always have drinks there. We'll always have a good vibe there. So even if you come through and you don't buy anything, that's fine, because we're trying to put out the vibe of what our brand is all about. Obviously, of course, we do sell stuff there, but it's not just about that. It's about creating the community with people and getting the awareness out there.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when you go like something like that, where you're like, you have a preconceived idea of what you're going to, and then you get there and it's just completely different. I always wonder if when people come to our stuff, if that's what it is, or as if we match stuff up enough where it's like you kind of know what to expect. So that stuff's always interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe let's talk about the pop-up. What makes for a successful pop-up, and like the pop-up as an event compared to, you know, having like a brick and mortar store that's always there? Like, it's marketed differently. There's more urgency involved. There's only a limited window. Yeah, what makes for a successful pop-up, and like what made for your last one to be successful, and like how can people kind of learn from that?
The marketing, like the build up that he does with Sam, like all the stuff that they curate to, it's just about like we start like at least 40 days before, like we'll start just blasting people with stuff. So it's like you can't not know that we're doing it. So it's like, and because we're every week we'll drop a new video to give you like little teasers or little different angles. So we try to keep people excited leading up. But like as far as it being successful, it's just about having dope. Yeah, you never know. Like it's like it's just like any form of art. You can have a concert, you can throw an art show, you build out all these things, but the most important part is getting the people through the door.
But even before the marketing part, like we're pretty thorough when we plan an event. We usually pick a date at least 3 months before, so we have the date. We know what our deadline is for everything, and then we kind of work backwards from that. So we have to understand the logistics of it. What's our budget for it? What size of a venue are we going to be able to use? What amount of clothing are we going to have? So we pick the date first, and then we work backwards from that, just to make sure that it makes sense, and we have enough time to do what we want to do, and we have enough time to actually have the clothing on hand. So yeah, I mean, figuring out the budget is always the hardest part, I think, because in a perfect world, we would just ball out and just have all the dopest stuff there, but we have to be strategic every time as far as what we're dropping and what's realistic and what do we think is actually going to sell. So there's a lot of lead up to that. There's a lot of kind of going back and forth as far as just figuring out how the fuck it's going to work. But then once we have the date picked, then we have deadlines for all the stuff that we have to make. We know when we need to get the product in by. If we can shoot the product beforehand to use it as promotion, that's great. But obviously sometimes that doesn't happen. But then yeah, going back to the marketing, we the month leading up to it, yeah, if you don't know we're having an event, at least like if you're following me on my personal page, like there's no fucking way, like you don't know. If you don't, like either you fully just intentionally don't look at our shit, which is fine, I don't really care, but we're pretty thorough, like we're pretty in your face about it, like we want, and part of it is because we know that you're going to enjoy it. Like I said, even if you're not going to buy anything, you're going to come through, at least be able to appreciate the work and the effort that goes into it, and then just go from there.
Dope. All right, let's just quickly talk about just a little bit more of your guys' tastes, because I feel like taste and your own personal style and opinion really comes into how you design and creative direction and whatnot. So what are some brands that you guys really like personally? And then we'll talk about which companies you think have the best merch. Or maybe each one of you just do one of each, like company you think is dope, and then a brand you think is dope, and then a company that you think has dope merch, and why.
Okay, I'm gonna go first. Dior is by far my favorite. Kim Jones can do no wrong, and I don't give a fuck what you guys say. But yeah, he's dope, and everything he makes is dope, and I take a lot of inspiration from him. Merch-wise, that's a tough question. I am a skater kid, so I'm gonna go with Volcom, just because Volcom, like for a skate, like just a basics brand, the thought and design that actually goes into it is next level, and I will forever rep those guys for sure.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in Vancouver, and it was always my dream to have. I always pictured myself having a clothing store. So when I see a store like Haven or Road and Gray, just with the top of the line products, and their clientele is dialed, something like that really resonates with me, where they understand their customers so well. and they really know how to interact with them and get the most out of them, and also provide the most for them. And then for merchandise, I mean, it's hard not to say Supreme just because they just have all the dopest accessories all the time. And if we could do like crazy random shit and
Sell
be able to sell it, yeah, that'd be cool. That's obviously something to aspire to, but that's not what our business is based around. But eventually, we'll probably do a little more extravagant stuff like that.
My favorite brand is out of New Zealand. They're called I Love Ugly. The main reason is just the message. Everything that they do it with a purpose. There's always deeper meaning with what they do. And their products are, the quality is unbelievable. So they focus on quality, but then it's crazy to me because they allow their clothing to kind of take the back seat to their message, but their clothing is like top of the line. So it's just really the way that they choose to get what they're trying to get out is really cool. And then after you've received the information, then you get a product and it's like, fuck yeah. It's like they just kind of hit you twice. So for me, that's it's always the voice has always been the most important part, or the message behind anything that we do is the most important part. So that's why I like those guys. And then merch is like, it's hard not to say Cause, because he sells teddy bears for $1,400. So I'm kind of stuck on that one.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so we'll wrap it up with one final question. What's the biggest lesson that you guys have learned in your first year, pretty much, of running in-house?
Sleep is for the weak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sleep when you're dead. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm planning to sleep when I'm rich, but
There you
I
go.
don't know about you guys.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Have your back end stuff figured out. Like, know how your books are gonna work. Know how you're gonna invoice people. It's all like, it sounds really simple, but you can get into a lot of trouble. Which I did that, so now I'm speaking from experience, because
Right.
you get kicked in the nuts, you figure it out. But yeah, I think for like the headache part of it, it's like, just make sure you have all that stuff dealt with, because it's gonna come back and it's not fun when it comes back.
Yeah. For me, it's really understand and know why you're doing something and what the reason is for. And we kind of touched on it a bit before, but if you know why you're doing it and you understand why, then it you can always use that to remind you through the tough times or through the challenging periods. It just really helps you kind of push forward through all the bullshit.
Definitely.
Dope, yeah, like all big lessons, especially the one that Graham mentioned, because I've made those same mistakes, and also like, yeah, and also the why too. I think that a lot of people get excited about the idea and then forget the little things, to your point, and then sometimes get so into it and then lose track of the why. And I've been guilty of both of those things in various times in my career as well. So thanks very much for joining us today. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. This has been the Jarett Lopez Show. Everyone have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.